What is Cafe Mocha? Cafe Mocha is experts, celebrities.
What's up? This is Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yours truly, Idris Elba.
This is Fantasia.
This is In Vogue.
This is India Ari.
So much more. All from a woman's perspective.
What flavor are you, baby?
This is Cafe Mocha.
Cafe Mocha with Emmy Award-winning talk show host Loni Love, rap legend YoYo, and me, I'm the producer, Angelique. Damon Wayans and Damon Jr. have a new sitcom out called Poppa's House. It also co-stars Atkins from Half and Half. She's next on Cafe Mocha.
Joining us today is my friend. We spent 4 years watching her in one of our favorite shows on UPN, Half and Half. And more recently, she played opposite Terry Crews in Are We There Yet? It's my girl, actress, mother, just badass woman, Essence Atkins. Essence, how have you been, sis?
I've been really good. I'm living the dream and grateful for every moment of it. Thank you for asking.
You know, I got to know Essence very well when we worked as guest co-host on the show E Daily Pop. And when I tell you she walks the walk, she talks the talk, it's just wonderful. And you have this new show that you're working on with Damon Wayans and Damon Wayans Jr. called Poppa's House.
Poppa's House.
Tell us about it. I'm so excited for you.
Poppa's House is a throwback with a modern twist. I mean, it's the sitcoms that we all watched and loved, right? It's like A Living Single, or even going so far back as to call like a All in the Family. It's a true multicam sitcom. But the twist is that it's with a real life father and son, and you will laugh a lot. But on top of that, we have the added bonus of having a true loving relationship where we get to see kind of fictionalized versions of their real life conflicts played out in such a beautiful, funny, and loving way. So Poppa's House is about a father and son who live next door to each other. And so they're constantly descending upon Poppa's house and interrupting him. And he is happily alone, or so he thinks. My character is Dr. Ivy Reed, and Poppa is he's a classic radio DJ. And he has a show that's been on for over 20 years. And corporate decides he needs the female perspective, as one does. And I am the uninvited guest who becomes a permanent resident in his house.
Wait, you stay in the house? I thought you were just the co-host of the show.
I'm the co-host of the show, but as you'll see if you follow the show along, eventually we move from the radio station to the podcast, which happens in the house.
Uh-oh.
I love it. It premieres Monday, October 21st on CBS, a broadcast.
On CBS network. Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's what I prayed for, ladies. It's what I prayed for. I wanted to, after Marlon ended, which was an NBC show that ended up being syndicated on Netflix. And, unfortunately, we only had 2 seasons. But after that, most of my work was in Atlanta. And so I was traveling back and forth a lot. And I'm happy to work wherever, but as a single mother, I really wanted to be in California, and I really wanted to work and be based in Los Angeles so I could spend more time as my son is about to enter into his teenage years. And, as the saying goes, look at God, because here I am, not just on network television, but based in Los Angeles. So, I really do have so much to be thankful for. And on top of which, I'm working with not just an iconic family, but one of my favorite families to work with, the Wayans.
Talking about your favorite family, what is it like working with Damon Sr., Jr., and the Senior? I know it has to be nonstop laughing, right?
It is nonstop laughing. I know people say that when they work with comedians, but the fact that they are father and son, that they're always trying to one-up each other, they're always trying to top each other, they're always trying to make each other laugh and surprise one another. The benefactor of that is all of us, is that we get to see them and they're in their true element, doing what they love and doing what they're so gifted at and what they've been doing for such a long time. And I've worked with Damon Jr. before on his first film, which was Dance Flick back in 2008. And I was like, yo, this kid is brilliant. He's really kind, and he is just as quick as you would expect him to be in terms of being able to think on his feet with the improvisation that's going to have you doubled over laughing. And now, almost 20 years later, he has really mastered that thing just from doing stand-up and other shows like The New Girl and Happy Endings. And he's brilliant. And he gives his dad a run for his money, both on the show as well as in real life. And working with Senior, that was kind of like the last one for me. I had worked with almost all the other Wayans. And so Senior was like, oh, I just can't wait to work with him. And I'm so grateful that we had a screen test and Marlon was in his ear long before he ever met me. And Marlon was like, if you don't hire her, you're an idiot. And, I had my screen test with him. And when I was finished, he looked at me and he goes, my brother was right. You're amazing.
You're also working with my podcast partner, who is a writer on your show, Erica Montaflo.
Yeah.
And she just thinks the world of you and the whole concept of Poppa's House. Let's talk about how important it is to have Black representation like this on broadcast television.
Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of avenues for us to be on broadcast television at the moment. But I think that there's definitely a move in a different direction. And we've been so blessed to have The Neighborhood, which is our lead-in show at 8:00 with Tashina and Cedric. And, that's been on now for 7 seasons and they're doing brilliant work over there. And I'm so grateful to have them as a lead-in. But I think that it's the perfect partnership to begin our journey on the show. But I think it's important, I started off in multicam. I started off, my very first acting job was on The Cosby Show. And, that was a time where really representation was very varied and very multidimensional, multicultural. And I think that we need that. I think that humanity needs that. In order for one to be affected and to see the commonality of us as human beings, I think we need to have exposure to people that are different from us. I think that increases our potential to love. When everyone around us is in a carbon copy of us, it exposes us to the humanity in us all. So I think this is a great way for people to see Black people on television, especially 2 Black men who are father and son, who are very present in each other's lives and have a very functional and loving relationship, even in the dysfunctional circumstances that we find ourselves in. It is the umbrella of the show is love. And I think that's an important, not to mention, we need the reprieve. We need the laughter. Life is life, and y'all.
We're talking to Essence Atkins from the new Wayans sitcom Poppa's House. It premieres on CBS at 8:30 Monday after The Neighborhood. You're listening to Cafe Mocha.
Standing in solidarity from a woman's perspective. It's Cafe Mocha.
Cafe Mocha, we're talking to Essence Atkins. Her new role is Dr. Ivy Reed alongside the Wayans. Let's get back into it.
On the line, actress Essence Atkins, Poppa's House with Essence, Damon Wayans Jr. and Damon Wayans Sr. will premiere Monday, October 21st. On CBS. You were also I saw you on Tia's reality show. I was like, look at Essence. Yes. Talk about it.
It's one of those things, Tia, as you guys are aware, she's gone through a divorce in the last couple of years, and it is a huge transition. She was with Corey for a very long time. And it's been difficult. It's been challenging. And, on top of which, I think it's challenging for anyone and everyone when you go through a divorce, but I think to be a public figure and also have your spouse be one as well, it just opens up the door for more scrutiny and more imposition and more narrative around what went wrong or what happened and speculation. And she asked me if I was comfortable showing up on the show to expose just the conversations, some of the conversations that she and I had shared in terms of needing support, because I've been through it. I've been there. My divorce was 9 years ago. And so I am the benefactor of having that experience and being able to advise her and love on her and support her. And I think that, I know for me, in my process, my girlfriends were everything, and having a loving, safe place to talk and cry and share and be encouraged made a huge difference. So I'm always going to answer that call when someone needs loving support and also is willing to talk about the vulnerable, hard things, and feel safe to do so. So I will happily answer the call for any of my sister friends for that reason.
You're like an influencer on Instagram for me because I'm always seeing your face pop up. I mean, and we know you as an actor. What role has social media played with your fans and audience getting to see you outside of your professional life?
It's interesting because when I started in this business, the idea and the pervasive perspective was to keep yourself a mystery. That as an actor, you wanted to be able to go in and out of characters and not have you or your persona precede that, so that the audience could believe you in a role. And I think what we've seen in terms of social media, the advent of social media, is that the fans want access. They want to know, sometimes almost to a place of no boundaries whatsoever. They want to know all the details of your personal life. And it's a difficult thing to navigate, to find the balance of sharing and letting people feel included, but also keeping your heart and your spirit safe. And so I think that I've done a good job of striking the balance of having people get to know me a little bit more as Essence instead of as Dee Dee or as Yvette or whatever character that they identify me with, but at the same time letting them get to know me as a person and my humanity as well. But it is a balance, and again, you have to have very strong boundaries, because takers will continue to take unless you have a real clear set of what is on and off the table for public consumption.
It's Cafe Mocha. We are talking to Essence Atkins. Poppa's House with Damon Wayans Sr. and Jr. It premieres Monday on CBS. We talked a little bit about this before, but what is it like to be on this network show? I mean, when Cedric the Entertainer was on, he was talking about the difference in money, from back in the day. I mean, I don't mean to get in your pockets and whatnot, but
yes, she does.
What's
yes,
them
she
checks
does.
look like?
She does.
I mean, yeah. Listen, the paradigm has changed in terms of there's so many channels and so many streamers that networks, everyone has to be more prudent in terms of where the spending goes. But broadcast television is where I started, and it still has a value, and it still has budgets that oftentimes the streamers do not have. So yes, that is reflected in pay, that is reflected in quality in terms of what you see sometimes on the screen and how the money shows up and what you're looking at. And so there's that. But for me, with being with CBS specifically, my very first on-air series as a series regular was a CBS show 30 years ago, starring Joe Morton, Vanessa Bell Calloway, and James Earl Jones, called Under One Roof. So for me to go from 1994 to be in 2024 and still be a series regular and still be on network television and still be relevant and invited back into people's homes and living rooms, I don't take that for granted. I am very thankful, and I really appreciate the full circle of it all. And even like our president of the network of CBS, Amy, she was the executive over Half and Half when I was the very first show that she was the executive, the network studio executive for over at UPN. So there's so many full circle, complete moments for me in this incarnation with this job that I just feel like it's really serendipitous, and it's really a beautiful moment for me to take stock in the longevity of my career and the fact that not just God, but people are still saying, we want to still watch you work. We still welcome you into our homes. Because, going to the movies is something that you do, right? You leave the house and you go. But when you're invited into people's homes, I feel like it's a much more intimate relationship. And it's part of the reason I think that people think or assume that they know you because you've been in their homes, you've been in their living rooms. And so there's a connective tissue there. And I love that fans continue to say, you're someone we want to see, you're someone whose work that we love. And I keep getting invited, not just invited to participate on the network side in the business sense, but invited to participate in storytelling for the people. Because at the end of the day, an actor's work it's not an isolated medium. I'm not an artist in my living room making a painting. It includes the audience. And so the fact that the audience keeps inviting me in is just such a beautiful and humbling experience for me. I'm so grateful.
You deserve it.
And can I say, ladies, as a fan, you look good.
I know. Let's talk about that. Because she had one of them when we were on E Daily Pop. We put up a picture of Essence coming out the pool, and when I say that body, how you keep it right and tight? Help the listeners.
There's moderation. I believe in doing things in moderation, but I also understand that as I'm getting older, I have to challenge myself to do things to maintain my physical fitness, not just for the vanity's sake, though that is part of it, but also just mental health. There's been so much information about how beneficial it is to lift weights, right? So much information about how beneficial it is in the long term to stay active, to walk. These things are preventative for not just osteoporosis, but they're preventative for dementia and Alzheimer's. So I think that it's very important that we be proactive in our health rather than reactive in our sickness. So I'm a healthy person, and I want to keep that going and perpetuate that and expand upon it as long as possible. I ran my first half marathon at 48 years old, and I ran it in 2 hours and 10 minutes. I had never run before in my life, but I trained for it, and I loved it. And now I am a runner. I love to run. I find it, and again, bilateral movement is shown to be really good for your mental health, for stress release and anxiety and all of those things, which, going through COVID, going through 2 strikes back to back, you needed those things. You needed those healthy coping mechanisms. And so I continue to push myself, but I also, to be honest, part of it is just also like deciding what kind of contribution I want to make to the environment around me. Like, if I don't have nothing nice to say on social media, I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm not going in on anybody or anyone's life. If it's something that I don't agree with, then I unfollow.
Okay.
But I don't need to disparage anyone. And part of, I think, what people see or recognize in a well-maintained lifestyle is peace. I maintain my peace. And part of that is what I allow in my circle, but it's also about what I put out into the world.
It's Cafe Mocha. On the line, Essence Atkins from Poppa's House, premiering this Monday and on CBS. You're also a mother. And as you stated earlier, it's great that you're shooting here in Los Angeles. But for a lot of our listeners, they're working mothers. Can you give them some advice on work-life balance?
I don't know that there is such a thing, right? Because every day, seriously, because every day you have a plan, right? And then there are things that happen outside of your ability to control, right? Or perhaps even the control itself is an illusion. So I think really flexibility and being able to pivot is a real requirement in this day and age, right? That you've got so many times where we have these plans and you have this path that you want your day to go on, or your week or your month or your year, and then things happen that you cannot anticipate. So I think that becoming flexible and learning how to pivot is really critical for your mental health and for raising a family and children, because again, children are their own beings. Like, we're guiding them, but they come here with personality. They come here with perspective, and they come here with their own penchants and their own things that they are gravitating towards that may not be what you thought it was going to be or what your plans were for them. And I think that flexibility is really important, and presence. And yes, I expect a certain level of respect from him and deference, but I also make sure that I speak to him in a way that promotes how I want to be spoken to. You know, we talk about it all the time. I say, Vara, what are the 3 tenets of our house? And he goes, trust, love, and respect. I said, exactly. So I can't demand those things from him if I don't give him those things. Yes, he follows me. Yes, you have to go do your homework. But even when I tell him it's time to go do your homework, son, it's time to go do your homework, please. Or, you know, please go do your homework in 15 minutes. You can finish up that Brawl Star game in 15 minutes, and then I need you to go do your homework, please, and thank you.
That used to work for me.
Speak to him.
That used to work for me until it gets did you hear what? It starts out very nice, and then it just gets to, I said, oh, nice doesn't work in my house.
Well, you know your child. You know what they need and what they respond to. I'm very fortunate. My son doesn't need a hammer. He responds to just a firmness and a consistency. I'm very consistent with him. And so that gives me a level of trust that he respects.
In other words, it's the mama. That's the
you give them that look, don't you?
I don't have the experience of everyone's child. I have the experience of my child, and this works for us.
Because you are raising a young Black man, do you have strong male figures to help you?
I do. Fortunately, you know, though his dad and I aren't married any longer, his dad is very present, and he is, we have 50-50 custody. So, you know, there's not longer than a few days that he goes without seeing either one of us. So he has a very present father who loves him very much and is a great co-parent. So I'm very fortunate in that respect. But also, I have incredible male friends. Dondre Whitfield is a wonderful resource for me. You guys know that he and Sally have been together for a long time. He has a son himself and a daughter, and he's just really adept in an emotionally available way at being able to prescribe from a male perspective some advice. So he's definitely a trusted resource for me when it comes to, you know, I mean, I believe I'm a good mother, but I'm still not a man. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I definitely rely on my male friends who, Marlon is a great person to be able to ask questions about too. I mean, he's not the most conventional person, but he's definitely an honest one and a loving one. So I can also reach out to him and ask. And of course, I have other male friends that have been in my life, like my godson's father, who I met on the set of Smart Guy.
Wow.
who was a PA on Smart Guy, and, you know, my godson is 24. So I was a bridesmaid in Carlos's first wedding, and then he and his first wife got a divorce after having 2 more sons. And then I officiated his wedding to his current wife and the mother of his daughter. So he's been in my life for, you know, almost 30 years at this point, and he's a dear, dear friend. He's an Emmy award-winning cameraman for CBS News, and he's another trusted ally for advice. He's got 3 sons. So, you know, I get to reach out to Carlos and ask him as well, and somebody that knows me, knows my family, and vice versa. So I'm very blessed with resource beyond just my own. And I have a brother and I have a dad, and I can always call them as well. So they're just not as close because they're in New York.
Definitely. Essence Atkins, you are my girl. Poppa's House with Damon Wayans Sr., Damon Wayans Jr., and Essence will premiere this Monday, October 21st on CBS. Thank you so much, and good fortunes, high ratings, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, thank you. Well, that doesn't happen without you guys. So thank you so much for helping us to get the word out there. And for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in at 8:30 on Monday the 21st. We appreciate you. I'm speaking it in advance. I thank you.
Thank you, Miss Essence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Essence, you got to do our podcast too. With me and Erica. So I'll get in touch with your folks. So
sounds good. I would love to. All right. Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Catch Poppa's House, co-starring Essence Atkins and Damon Sr., Damon Jr., kicking off Monday night on CBS and Paramount Plus. You're listening to Cafe Mocha.
We're at Cafe Mocha Radio. Socially savvy on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Serving up more Cafe Mocha on the way.
What up, music lovers? It's Claude Kelly.
What's up? It's Chuck Harmony.
And besides being two of the co-hosts of We Sound Crazy, we are also
Louis York, your favorite two-man band.
And the exciting news is we have a new album
streaming on all platforms. It's called Songs with Friends, and it features some of the best voices in the business.
Oh yes, I'm talking about Tamia,
Jessie J,
Layla Hathaway,
PJ Morton,
Gramps Morgan,
the Shindellas,
and so many more. Check out
Songs with Friends.
That's the kind of girl I need down with my team.
Standing in solidarity from a woman's perspective. It's Cafe Mocha.
It's Cafe Mocha. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Joining us today, as she does every year this time, is longtime friend of the show, Ricky Fairley, who is founder and CEO of Touch, the Breast Cancer Alliance. Hi, Ricky.
How are you guys today? So happy to be here with you.
You know, we always love when you come on because this is so important this time of the year. Ricky, for our listeners, can you remind people of your story?
Sure. So I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, stage 3A. And, that's the worst breast cancer you can get. Black women get it at 3 times the rate of white women, and we don't know why, but I got it. I had a double mastectomy. I did 6 rounds of chemo, 6 weeks of radiation, and my doctor said, okay, you're all right. And then to come back in 2 months for a scan. So I came back. It was almost exactly a year to the day of my first diagnosis. They found 5 spots on my chest wall, and my doctor said, okay, Ricky, we don't have any more drugs for you. You're now metastatic. You have 2 years to live. Get your affairs in order. And I said, I can't really die right now. I have a daughter at Dartmouth. I got to pay tuition. So me, you, and God, and some drugs, we got to work this out. I can't die. And so I went to Dr. Google, and I found on the 3rd page of Dr. Google, the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Foundation. And they said, we're going to find you a doc. They found me a doc. She was probably about one of 5 docs in the country that was actually researching triple negative breast cancer. So she put me on some experimental drugs. I did a lot more chemo, and I didn't die. And it's been 13 years as of September 21st.
Wow.
Thank goodness.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So this is my God job. God left me here to do this work to help other Black women deal with this horrible disease.
And this is why you decided to become an activist in this area?
Yes, totally. This is why I'm here. This is why God left me here.
I love it. Ricky, people are reluctant to do clinical trials, but you're a big fan of it. Why?
So, we're now finding, you guys, in so many studies that a Black breast cancer cell looks different from a white breast cancer cell. And guess what the drugs were based on?
White.
We went back and looked in history, and there were no Black women in those clinical trials. So we have a 41% higher mortality rate and a 39% higher recurrence rate because the drugs aren't working for us. We don't have drugs for us. And so if we don't put our bodies into the research, we're going to keep dying. And right now we only have a 3% participation level of Black women in clinical trials, which is basically zero, you guys. And so we have to do the trials. And a clinical trial is what saved my life. I went on, experimental drugs, and that's why I'm here. Black women die of breast cancer more than white women at any age, any stage, any subtype, any kind of breast cancer. And so we have to do the research to get the drugs that we need for our breast cancer. And so we launched a campaign now. It's almost 3 years now, When We Trial, and Sheila helped us launch it actually. And it's called When We Trial. Go to whenwetrial.org. And basically we're educating Black women about the science of a clinical trial. Because the reason why Black women don't do them is because their doctors don't ask them. Their doctors don't ask us, whatever, racism, Elizabeth bias, or whatever. And then we get stuff like, I think I'm going to get the sugar pill and die. And that's because no one ever explained it to them. How would you know what a clinical trial is? How would you know what standard of care is and just let somebody explain it to you? So we explain it to women. We break it down in words we can spell from voices of trust, voices of blessees like me, who have lived experience. We can share our stories and explain it. But you know that Advil you took last week? It was in the clinical trial. You know that heart medicine I give my dog Harper? It was in the clinical trial. So, the research is safe, and we need it, and we have to have it. So, and we go out in the community. We've done over 100 events already this year, because I like to say we go where Black women live, work, play, pray, and slay. And we're out there talking to women, explaining the trials. We have a lot of videos on our website so you can see yourself and see women that look like us on the sites. And we've now signed up 20,056 Black women for clinical trials in the past 3 years.
Wow. It's Cafe Mocha on the line. Ricky Fairley, founder and CEO of Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance. We're talking about clinical trials. Now, when we say clinical trials, Miss Ricky, is it that you're diagnosed, or how is it, or can you be healthy and participate? What are the criteria?
Yeah, there's so many clinical trials, you guys. There's trials for the stress on your body forever, but in a cancer trial, you're going to get a standard of care drug, so a drug that already works, that's already on the market, may not work great for us, but it's what's out there, right? And then maybe a better drug on top of it, or against it or over it. So you get another drug that could be something new and different that may not be on the market for 5 or 10 years, but it's available now for you. And those are the drugs that are working. And if you get breast cancer under the age of 40, especially triple negative breast cancer, that's the best science we have. That's the best science. So that's the best thing you can do to your body. And you get a better quality of care because more people are looking at you, prodding you, poking you. You get more frequent scans. And so if the drug's not working, they trade it out for something else. So it's really the best thing. But you can do trials for, like, even how they found out that hair color could be a cause of breast cancer. That was in the clinical trial. So there's all kinds of trials, and we're happy to help you find them. If you just, email us or go on our website and connect in, we will help you find a trial. Because, any data on Black women is good data. We just don't have enough science. And we're seeing that there are biological differences, there's genetic differences, there's genomic differences, there's environmental differences in our cells. And we need better drugs for us.
The website again is whenwetrial.org. Since we are here in October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, what are the must-dos, the absolute must when it comes to taking care of our breasts?
First and foremost, check your breasts, know your body, know what it feels like. So many young women go to the doctor, present with a lump, and the doctor says, oh, you're too young, you're for a mammogram, come back in 6 months, and they're dead. So know your body. The second thing is know her story. Talk to your mama and your grandma on both sides of your family. Both sides. You can get it from your dad too. And know what the risks are. Know what your risks are. You can actually get a risk assessment from your doctor. And if you have a family history, you really need to know what your risks are and know when you should get that first mammogram, because 40 is too late for many of us with family history. So know her story. We don't talk about health in our house until Uncle Pookie gets his leg amputated, right? Or until we're in a crisis. So talk to your grandmas, and they may not want to talk to you. We have a great tool on our website for the Love of My Girls, loveofmygirls.org with a GURLS, to help you know her story and write down all the things people have died of, so you know what your risks are. I don't have any genetic mutations, and that's only about 5% of breast cancers. But my daughter, who's at 38, last February, she got a double mastectomy, prophylactic, so she can prevent it. She has 3 babies. She's done having babies, and she said, I'm taking control of my life. I'm the CEO of my own health. I'm going to cut my boobs off so I won't get breast cancer like my mom.
Wow. A lot of us still don't have the proper insurance. They can't afford the trip to the doctor unless it's really serious. What then?
Well, mammograms are free, but you can only get a mammogram if you're over 40, right? And that's kind of too late for us. But, you should be able to, if you have a family history, you should be able to get the care that you need. And if you're having trouble, reach out to us. We will help you find a doc or a center that will give it to you. And you want to get a 3D mammogram. Black women, we have dense breasts. A 2D mammogram shouldn't even be available now. You should get a 3D mammogram. But you should be able to get a free mammogram. And if you don't have, coverage, if you don't have coverage, and if you're under 40 and you have a family history, you should be able to fight for that. And we can help you.
And we should also say to remember to get your mammograms. For me to, just remind me, I always do it around my birthday. So I know that, it's like that year. But, it's women like you, Ricky, that we love, and we just appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate, your voice and your work. in helping to save so many women, especially women in our community. Thank you so much, Ricky.
Thank you, and thank you guys for being here. You know, Cafe Mocha is like a staple in our lives as Black women, and you guys are just, so awesome to do what you do to get our words out, to get our messages out. So thank you so much. Love you. I love Sheila so much.
It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We're talking to Ricky Fairley, the founder of Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance.
Here's your dose of espresso. Strong, hot news now.
This is the Espresso. VP Kamala Harris sat down with Roland Martin this week in North Carolina.
The reality of how this system works is that we each have many ways that we are powerful, and one of those ways, very significantly, is through our vote. People sit down and they'll watch and say, okay, well, those folks aren't going to vote anyway. I don't need to listen to them.
Plus, she unveiled her Black man plan to attract Black male voters. Some say she's polling just fine with Black men. In fact, she's got 80% of the Black vote.
People are, especially in these white media outlets, are setting it up to blame her potentially losing the election on Black men specifically and Black people as a whole, which makes no sense. No other presidential candidate has numbers that represent for them as high as Black women followed by Black men.
Andra Day has a new film out called Exhibiting Forgiveness. She talks about her personal struggles with forgiveness.
I think the interesting thing about forgiveness is sometimes you thought that you have forgiven, and then years go by and something happens and you realize you haven't and you're still holding on to it.
That's the Espresso.
This is Cafe Mocha. Radio from a woman's perspective.
It's Cafe Mocha with Loni Love, YoYo. I'm Angelique. On the line is my North Carolina homie, Kim Jeffries Leonard. She's president of and CEO of Envision Consulting. And she is here to tell us about Risk Less, Do More. It's a campaign, and I want you to tell us about it, Kim.
Thank you so much. I'm really very excited to be here. And yes, I am here to talk a little bit about the Risk More, Do Less campaign. And the reason why it's named Risk More, Do Less is because we want people to understand why it's so important to get vaccinated for flu, COVID-19, and RSV. These are three viruses that can have devastating impact on not only people in general, but in our communities especially. And so we want people to be vaccinated because if they are, it helps them risk less severe illness and do more of what they enjoy. And that's really what we want people to be able to do.
Now, what, when you say that, what type of people, what type of vaccines are we talking about, Miss Kimberly?
Okay, so we're talking about three specific vaccines. We're talking about the flu vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, and the RSV vaccine. Last year, and last fall and winter, where we are now, fall and winter, these respiratory viruses, flu, COVID-19, and RSV, they hospitalized over 800,000 people. Wow. And so if you get your vaccine, if you get the flu vaccine, if you get the COVID-19 vaccine, and if you get the RSV vaccine, these vaccines are your best defense against getting severe illnesses, getting a severe reaction from these illnesses, and really trying to keep you out of the hospital. So being vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get the flu, that you won't get COVID-19, or you won't get RSV. What it means is you won't get it severely enough that it would put you in the hospital and put your life at risk.
One of my friends had a toddler that got RSV. I'm wondering, what's the age range for that? At what point should you start getting the vaccine?
You know, you can get these vaccines as early as, newborns, because, children younger than 5 years old, especially younger than 6 months, they are really at much higher risk to develop RSV. RSV can be very harmful to newborns. So can the flu, and so can COVID. And so what we know is that about 20,000 children under 5 each year are put in the hospital due to flu. We know that studies show that infants under 6 months of age are hospitalized for COVID-19 at about the same rate that adults 65 to 74 years are. And so many infants in the United States, just like your friend's child, have been hospitalized because of RSV. And one of the statistics that we have is that each year about 58,000 to 80,000 children younger than 5 are put in the hospital due to RSV. And again, infants are at the greatest risk.
Ballots have already been mailed out in some states. Please don't get caught out there waiting to vote last minute. North Carolina has very restrictive voting laws. Texas has made it harder voting, especially if you live in Dallas or Houston. And I won't even talk about Georgia. Just make sure you vote early in case you run into problems.
Want a little more of our flavor? Stay right there. It's Cafe Mocha.
It's Cafe Mocha. On the line, Kim Jeffries Leonard, President and CEO of Envision Consulting. We're talking about the new campaign, Risk Less, Do More. For those who have parents that's in their 60s and up, how do you suggest having this conversation with them? Because, a lot of them old heads don't like vaccines.
Well, being somebody who's in their 60s, and then my mother is actually 92.
Oh, right.
I think that the conversation, 92 and still going strong. And believe me, I make sure she gets her vaccines. As soon as they come out, as soon as we're told, I get mine as soon as they come out, as soon as I'm told, because what we want people, what our children can tell us is that we want you to be as healthy as possible. We know that people of our age or older, my age or older, I'm not going to put y'all in that category, my age or older, we really are at greater risk for these diseases because we have other conditions. Some of us have autoimmune issues. Some of us have chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease. All of these things, when you put them and mix them with the flu or COVID-19 or RSV, it puts us at greater risk for more severe illness. And so the conversation really needs to be that we want you to be as healthy as possible. If you get these respiratory illnesses, we don't want you to go in the hospital. We don't want you to have severe illness. We want you to have less symptoms. So back to the campaign slogan, we can risk less and do more. Now, one of the things that I think in our communities, children can say, the adage is, when the world gets a cold, our communities get the flu. That's absolutely true. We are at higher risk. We have more severe impact of these diseases than our counterparts. In fact, we know that Black and brown communities bore some of the heaviest health burdens from COVID, from the pandemic, and we're still experiencing these. And so what we know is that last year, in this last respiratory virus season, Black adults were nearly twice as likely as Hispanic and white adults to be hospitalized for the flu, and were about 25% more likely to be hospitalized for COVID-19. And so when you talk to your old heads, what you want to say is the goal is to keep you as healthy as possible. And we don't want you to be at that kind of risk for severe illness from these viruses. So getting your vaccines helps keep your symptoms as less severe as possible. So it's really important for people our age and older to make sure they stay up on these vaccines.
You keep saying our age, Kim.
My age, not your age, my age. I'm sorry.
No, you and Angelique. You and Angelique. As a matter of fact, she's 20 years older than you. So,
baby, I'm way older than you. Way.
I don't even believe that.
All right. Kim Jeffries Leonard, President and CEO of Envision Consulting, wants us to risk less, do more, and get out there and get your flu shot, get your COVID shot, get your RSV shot, go to the CVS, go to your doctor, and get it done. That's the show. Make sure you check out Poppa's House Monday on CBS after Cedric and Tashina in the Neighborhood. And most importantly, make a plan and vote. Until next time, you can find us on all platforms at Cafe Mocha Radio. Cafe Mocha is a production of Miles Ahead Broadcasting in partnership with Super Radio. Executive producer Sheila Eldridge. For comments, booking, or more information, visit cafemocharadio.com.